Alone, Ham takes out his handkerchief and spreads it before him. He speaks about weeping so as not to laugh, and about grieving. He folds the handkerchief and pockets it. He thinks about all the people he might have saved, but then remembers that there is no cure for being on Earth. He angrily thinks about humans, then about his current situation, devoid of even a real dog. He considers finishing his story and starting another, or throwing himself on the floor, but he isn't able to push himself off his seat. He thinks about how it will be the end, and he'll have wondered what provoked it and why it took so long. He'll be alone in his silent and still shelter. He'll have called his father and his son. He ruminates more on his eventual death, then whistles. Clove enters with the alarm clock. Ham is surprised he's not gone or done, though Clove says he has gone, in spirit. He reports that the rat got away from him. Clove says it's time for Ham's painkiller, which relieves him until Clove reveals there's none left. Clove puts the alarm clock down, and hums, though Ham tells him to stop and to look at the earth. Clove looks out the window with a ladder, and sees water everywhere. Confused, since it hasn't rained, he realizes he's been looking at the sea window. Ham keeps asking if Clove knows what's happened, but Clove doesn't understand the question, and then says it doesn't matter. Clove reminds him that after Mother Peg asked Ham for oil for her lamp, and he refused her, Ham knew what was happening and that she died of darkness. Ham feebly says he didn't have enough, but Clove refutes this. Clove wonders why he obeys Ham, and Ham answers that perhaps it's compassion. Clove looks for the telescope and moves Ham's chair in the process, which frightens Ham, who wants to be returned to the center. Clove gets the telescope, but Ham asks for his dog. Clove retrieves it and hits Ham with it. Ham says that if Clove must hit him, he should use an axe or the gaff. Clove hands the dog to him. Ham asks to be put in his coffin, but Clove says there are none left. Clove takes the telescope and goes up the stepladder. Ham says a few things, and when Clove asks if he's talking to him, Ham retorts that it was an aside and he's warming up for his last soliloquy. Clove sees a small boy out the window. He says he'll investigate with a gaff, presumably to kill off the potential procreator, but Ham says the boy will either die outside or come inside, if he exists at all. He tells Clove that they've come to the end and he doesn't need him anymore, and asks him to leave him the gaff. Before Clove leaves, Ham asks him to say something from your heart. Clove repeats a few things they said to me, such as, "That's love," and "That's friendship." He says he'd decided to suffer the pains of life, but one day it ends, and now he'll weep for happiness when he dies. Ham stops him before he leaves and thanks him for his services. Clove thanks him, and Ham says they are obliged to each other. He asks him for a last favor, to cover him with the sheet, but Clove has already left. He tries to move the chair with the gaff. Clove enters, outfitted for his journey. Ham doesn't know he's there, and throws away the useless gaff. He cleans his glasses, and recites some poetry, the opening train of Charles Baudelaire's sonnet, Reclamant. He resumes telling his story about the man and his child, repeating how the man wanted his child with him. Ham recalls it was the moment he was waiting for. He asked the man if he didn't want to abandon his son and prevent him from blooming while the man dies. He also addresses the child, and says that his father knows only death. Ham twice calls out, "Father," and, not hearing anything, says, "We were coming." He discards his dog and his whistle. He calls out for Clove, but hears nothing. He takes out his handkerchief, unfolds it, and says, "You remain." He covers his face with the handkerchief and sits motionless. The ending is the beginning. Clove has not left after all. Ham is again covered with the handkerchief, and they are doomed to repeat the same day over again. Beckett teases us by briefly resolving the tension over Clove's departure, but he returns, and neither death nor willful escape will ever arrive in his cyclical existence. The child who appears outside is a figure of resurrection and recreation that Ham and Clove fear, as his ability to procreate confirms their fears that life is, indeed, cyclical. But it is their fault alone that life is cyclical. Clove chooses to return, and Ham is reluctant to end the game, and even to end his final story, to which he keeps adding. But his attachment to life is hardly positive, and if he can't enjoy it, then he tries his best to make sure others can't, either. With the knowledge of his heinous refusal to give Mother Peg the light she needed to live, alongside his stinginess with food and his story about the man and child, Clove's cruel deprivation of Ham's painkiller and other amenities makes sense. The irony is also apparent. Blind Ham wants to keep others in the dark as well, and his cleaning his glasses is a poignant, futile act. Clove, too, ends pessimistically. His dour list of the things they said are, according to a journal of Beckett's, the 5 dispensers of life's consolations, in Clove's order: love, friendship, nature, science, and mercy. He is a believer in none of these things, all having betrayed him. The first 3 are obvious. Science proves no cure to their problems, and no one has mercy on them, nor do they have mercy on anyone else.